comptroller, we talked a little bit. He's game to do it. He thinks it's terrible. But you know, it's great too. But so I told him we should follow up.
25th agenda session to order. Can I get approval on the minutes?
Second.
Okay, minutes stand without objection. Council, if you will take a look at your agenda for today. Ordinances under final reading. We have one planning item. If you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand until we get this board fixed, please. So just let me know. Okay, here it is. Okay, we're ready. Councilwoman Hill?
Oh, no, that
Nope,
was already.
nothing. All right. Okay, all right. Look at ordinances on the first reading. Hit your light now if you have any questions, comments. Okay, Councilwoman Knoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm probably going to ask for a defer on my B
On B?
until I have yet to hear from the developers. And
Okay,
I am asking one more time. And this will be the final time.
okay,
And if they do not,
all right,
then it will be whatever.
all
Yeah.
right. Do you have a timeline on your deferral?
I'm going to go 2 weeks.
2 weeks, all
Yes.
right.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank
Chair.
you. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for the city attorney on item A under legal.
Yes.
Phil, are these all the changes that are coming through, or is there another part of this coming through later?
There may be a different version coming for the general pension fund. This
Okay.
is for the fire and police pension fund.
Yeah. Does this cover the staggered terms?
This terms of office, yes.
Okay, so this is the comprehensive
Yes.
overview. Okay,
Yes.
very good. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Ledford. All right, if you continue to look at ordinances, any other questions or comments, please hit your light. Resolutions, we have several of those. Any comments or questions? Okay. Under economic development, information technology, mayor's office. All right, council. Would you please take a look at your next week's proposed agenda? Any comments or questions? All right. Tonight we have 6 purchases. Did you have a question? All right, Councilwoman, Madam Vice Chair Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to get just some clarity for the council and on record for what we're looking at for item, let's see, that would be 6D related to pausing the park board for a while. The why of that.
So the moratorium will be a temporary moratorium on the existing park ordinance because as you all know, the state legislature has provided new guidelines for park police advisory review committees of any type. So to become in compliance, we are working on drafting a new ordinance that will be in compliance, but in the meantime, the department does not have the ability to move forward on open internal affairs cases. So this will essentially allow them the opportunity to not have 4 to 5 months of open investigations kind of hanging in the balance while we work to bring our existing park into compliance with what the new park will look like. And we will have a public safety committee meeting next week in which myself and police department will give kind of a progress report on where we are, why we're here, where we're going, and all that good stuff. So, and then the park members will also be here for that as well, and that'll be next week.
Thank you for that, Brooke. A request for that meeting next week. It's important to me and to the constituents of District 2 that our park be something that is genuinely meaningful. And I would appreciate it if we could have some kind of one pager, like a chart, a matrix or some of, these are the responsibilities and capabilities of the park board currently. Here in column 2 is what the state will allow, pros and cons of those, so that we can all see at a glance where the state is mandating that we head, so that we can decide as a city council how best we can ensure that everyone in the city of Chattanooga feels safe and confident in our police department. I don't want us to end up with something that doesn't have any teeth. I want our citizens to know that their wishes of having some oversight are genuinely being heard.
Yeah, absolutely. The administration feels the same way, and we're happy to talk through all of that next week.
A one-pager
And
would
have
be great.
a, yes, we
That
will
would be.
make sure that
thank you,
happens.
I appreciate it.
All right, is that it, Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. In District 9, we too, we was a part, several of us was a part of trying to put the park board together, and what the state has decided to do is ultimately what we tried to do at the beginning was hiring an executive director over the park board at the beginning, and we decided not to go that direction because of funding. And so Knoxville and several other municipalities, they met with a group of us about it, not just with city council members, but with county commission members as well. I'm not sure if we still have on file like the portfolio of what those cities were doing when it came to their park board that we can kind of share out still if our clerk still had that information. And those same concerns that you have in District 2, and I'm sure across the city of Chattanooga, was that about having a park board that has teeth, right? When Russell first put it together with input from everybody else, it kind of had a lot of teeth in it, and then it kind of got scaled back to where it's not any teeth in it. And once we put it together again, because of the state regulations and rules that's unchanged, it still won't have no teeth in it. And that's intentional, right? We just got to be honest about what it is. But I do have confidence in our police department to where our chief of police, that she will be able to say, hey, this was wrong, this is this, this is this, this is this. And that's just the way that it's going to be unless we become bold enough as a council to say, you know what, we're going to push the issue with the state. And if they overturn what we do, then so be it. But if we don't ever push back on what they're saying that we have to do, it serves us no purpose. We're just creating stuff, and they still guiding everything without us even saying, listen, this is how we want it to work for our city. No, we're not willing to say that. So we're like stepchildren where they're slapping us on the hand already saying, okay, well, here's the threat of it, right? And we know why the park board came into existence, and until we start having some accountability, real accountability to everybody, police department, from the citizens in Chattanooga, from doing the wrong things, then we're going to continue to have these same conversations regardless if we have a park board or not.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair.
Was that it?
Yep.
All right, council. Any other comments or questions? All right. If you would continue to take a look at your next week's proposed agenda. If any comments or questions, feel free to hit your like. If you take a look at your purchases, we have, I believe, 6 purchases this evening. Any comments or questions? All right. If you would take a look at your future considerations. Any comments or questions on your 3-week look ahead? All right. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Phil, I would appreciate it if you could give us some information about the ordinance that you're going to be bringing relative to the general pension plan. What changes we should be expecting?
I believe Valerie in my office was at least preparing those changes here. It was just, and I unfortunately right now just have 2303-22 that she's trying to make an amendment to here. I will be glad to give you information. She was here last week and did not tell me exactly what changes she was going to make. But I will include those and give you an update here if you need it this afternoon.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, is that it, Madam Vice Chair?
I did have one other question.
All right.
It's related to the mayor's office putting Chip Baker on the Metropolitan Airport Authority. Is there some kind of county requirement for that board? Is that there? Because he lives not in the city, I don't think.
No, there is not a county requirement. There's not a requirement for there to be a county commissioner on there. Was that
Well,
the nature of your question?
and/or a person who lives in the county. Does he live in the city?
No, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, you want to speak to this? I think you just need to be a resident.
Of the county?
There's actually no residency requirement for the Metropolitan Airport Authority, and for years, as long as it's existed, there have been members from North Georgia, Bradley County, and other surrounding areas, not
Okay,
just
thank you.
Chattanooga. There's actually, from the previous administration, one resident of Cleveland and one resident of Dalton currently serving on the board.
Okay, thank you, that makes sense. That's all, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, now we've reached departmental reports. We don't have any of those today. Committees, we have Parks and Public Works Committee as well as a Budget and Finance Committee. All right, with that, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Coonrod.
All right, thank you. It just came across my mind, we can go back again, because I know Brooke, made her plea about what they would like to see with the park, thing, but it's up to the council. I like to, and Chip is over our public safety department, like, we should talk about it in the committee about or strategic planning, like, what would we like our park board to be crafted to be? So it's not just our administration saying, here's a document we want you to follow. We done got into too much scrutiny over that kind of stuff. We're the legislative body. And if we want to look at what the state is saying, hey, this is what we can go by, then we should at least participate in it and say, okay, let's see what our shared ideas are. Let's see what we have. Let's see what the state recommending. And then we go from there. Or unless Brooke and the administration is willing to work alongside with council, that means all of us work together, not them creating a document and saying, here, we want you to approve this. I think that's not the job description of city council, is to take it from them giving it to us. I think we done kind of got it backwards in a lot of sense. So that's what I would like to see happen. I mean, Chip, I'm not trying to add anything to your plate or in your committee, but it just makes sense to me, if we're the legislators that's supposed to produce it, that we need to be the ones working on it.
All right, Councilwoman Coonrod, is there anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, with that, I will turn it over to Councilman Hester for Parks and Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Can we accept the minutes? Thank you. We only have one ordinance on final reading. And can you read B, please? 5B.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an unopened right-of-way in the 4700 block of Shallowford Road, as detailed on the attached maps, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you. Next to the resolution, 7F, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Tara Ellis as a special police officer, unarmed, for the City of Chattanooga Public Works Department Land Development Office to do special duty as prescribed herein in the position of building inspector, subject to certain conditions.
I see no hands. G, please.
A resolution amending Resolution Number 31303 to increase the estimated amount of $400,000 due to additional contract utilization for the on-call demolition services blanket contract number D-22-002-201 with Tower Construction LLC for a revised estimated amount of $650,000.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chair. A quick question for anybody who can answer this. Maybe it's Public Works. Bill, do you know what the new average is for individual homes? At some point, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we were at about 15,000 to 17, 18,000 to demo, like, say, a small structure. Do you know if that number, I mean, obviously things have risen like everywhere, but do you know if we have a new number?
I do not know off the top of my head what that number is, but be happy to get with community development as well and take a look at that number. This is, I didn't look at it for this particular contract or for this resolution because this is not a new contract, so this was
Correct.
not a rebid. So
Right.
I would just have to look back at that.
I'm just
bid.
curious in tracking that number through the years.
Certainly.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. All right,
We'll be glad to
thank
get it to you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. You good on that?
Yes, sir.
Wastewater H, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Wastewater to accept a competitive American Rescue Plan grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation State Water Infrastructure Investment Program for the wastewater capital project number W-17-016, Moccasin Bend Environmental Campus Water Use and Reuse Project, for a total amount not to exceed $5 million.
I see no hands. Aye, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the wastewater department to award contract number W-19-20, W-19-026-201, pump station safety improvements to J.S. Herron Construction Company, Inc. of Etowah, Tennessee, for pump station improvements and upgrades at Brainerd Golf Course, Murray Hills, Brainerd Manor, Hickson 2, and Central Avenue, in the amount of $15,538,000, with a contingency in the amount of $1,553,800, for a total amount of $17,091,800.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That concludes Parks and Public Works Committee. I say to Public Works, you guys, that was a nice luncheon last week. Keep up the good work. Thank you. At this time, Budget and Finance Committee is up next. Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Call to order the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. May I have a motion on minutes? Second. Any opposed? Thank you very much. We have 3 issues today. An update on the status of the short-term vacation rental tax rates and vis-a-vis Tennessee law. And that will be Vicky, followed by the status of enforcement of unlicensed STVRs. I guess that's Chris. And the administrating hearing officer updated, I think, and that'll be Mike, correct? You're on, guys.
Madam Chair, it'll be Mike and I together introduce, those last 2 topics are really intertwined.
However you want to handle it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're first.
Thank you. A quick update, and it's going to be a very, very quick update. First of all, on the legal part, we're not aware of any movement on the Tennessee Court of Appeals case with Sevier County on their timeshares. So not aware of any updates there.
What, yeah,
The legislation
yeah,
to be able to make us move it to ask the assessor to move it from residential to commercial. There was a case.
okay, all right. So I think we were interested in was that what you're talking about? And then we were also talking about what are the uses, what can we use those
Okay,
taxes
my
for?
understanding was that we needed an update on the on the legislation.
Right,
There was litigation in Sevier County because they moved theirs from residential to commercial. And there
Right,
was there
yeah.
was a Tennessee Court of Appeals ruling on that, and we're not sure, we don't know of any movement on that case at all. So
Okay.
that would be the reason, that would be the basis for us to or to not ask the assessor to change the use.
So we're waiting on the outcome of that case.
So we don't
To
have an
see
update.
if it's in a residential area, or if it is a residence, since it's a business, can it be taxed as commercial?
Correct.
All right. And Phil, you want to wait for the outcome of that, or can we?
Yes, ma'am. There has actually been, I guess, a ruling by the Court of Appeals saying that that assessment was appropriate, at least for those that were in a, I guess, a condominium association type development for short-term rentals. And we're waiting on whether that is appealed to the Supreme Court at this point in time for additional ruling. But at this point in time, there is a ruling, at least under a condominium association
That says
aspect, that said that it can be taxed at 40% commercial
that
rate.
it can be
Yes.
taxed as commercial.
Correct.
And so far, we're waiting, where are they in the appeal process?
They, I think, are in the process, it's a 90-day appeal process they can go
Okay.
through. And that ruling just went down, I believe, in the end of June.
Okay, so someone will let us know when there's a final ruling so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we can proceed?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
we will.
okay. What else, Vicki?
Okay, the other one was to take a look at the parcels that had been identified. And we had a staff member go through and look at the county assessment. And to the best of our knowledge, we've came up with about a $253,000 difference. That would be assuming that all of those could be taxed at a commercial rate. And I know that 11 of those were already tax TIF parcels, so we don't get all of that. And a few of them were listed as multi-use, and we're not sure whether those are residential or commercial, from what we could tell.
So if we're allowed to tax at a commercial rate, we'll be ready. We've identified the parcels.
I'm sure this is a list from 2 months ago, I think.
Okay.
So, but whether we would be able to keep that whole 253,000, whether all of those would be able to be commercial, and how much of that we could keep, because some are TIF parcels, is, we just don't know.
Right, so I guess my question is whether or not we'd be able to keep it. What does that mean?
11 of the parcels are TIF parcels. So that means we collect the property tax revenue and
Okay.
remit a chunk of it.
Okay, I see
Chunk
what
being
you're
a good
saying.
accounting term.
Okay. Well, I think what you said is important, and if we could get together a one-page bullet statement of what you just said. The law is in limbo right now, it's on appeal. Right now, we've identified 200 parcels, I don't know,
It's 336.
whatever it is. Right now, the increase would amount to approximately thus and so. The externalities affecting it are whether or not it had other obligations like TIF or whatever, taxes. Yeah, so that we know where we stand so that we can move immediately forward.
Okay, that is in that update document, but I can send something separate.
Yeah, I didn't see,
I'll be glad to send something separate, no problem.
yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's you, Chris.
It's not really fair that Vicki
Excuse
didn't
me,
take
I'm
longer.
sorry.
Mike, you want to come on up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Follow-up for the city attorney before we start, real quick.
Yes.
So Phil, you mentioned the Sevier County case.
Yes,
And in the appeal process currently, strictly for condominiums.
yes, sir.
So that would not transfer over to any R1 residential properties.
That would be the question about whether it would be applicable to properties that are no longer in a condo unit on there. They specifically apply that. We'll definitely try to make sure whether it's applicable for a broader intent or not. The commercial purpose is the question.
So large corporations owning multiple R1 residences will still be able to enjoy a 25% tax rate versus hotels, for example, who
That's
are
what
paying
we're
a
trying to
commercial
prevent.
rate at 40%.
Yes, sir.
I think that was the whole
And that's what we're
crux
trying to
of
prevent.
the bringing it up was, wow, what an advantage.
Yes,
To some corporations, that's a massive advantage.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And we're trying to avoid that, yes, sir.
Yes.
So you know where we're headed with the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, I'm sorry I missed your light.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
I think that would actually give the assessor a little more comfort here to see those rulings. That's what we're
Okay.
trying to do.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, yes, thank you.
Can I add one thing?
Sure, go ahead. Jenny, yeah.
And to follow up on Councilman Ledford's point, not only is it an advantage in a hospitality environment, but also we are creating a disadvantage in a separate conversation in that affordable housing in an apartment style is billed at a corporate tax rate, and actually the cost for that commercial tax adds $100 a month to every door.
Yes.
$100 a month to a lease. It's a lot. Thank you.
I think you know where we're headed and where we want to go.
Yes.
It's just a matter of cleaning up some noise on the line.
Yes, and having a
Get us there.
assessor in company.
Get us there.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, get us there. We care about the state, but maybe not. Okay, Chris.
Yes, ma'am. Great to see you today. Afternoon, council. I'm going to hand most of this off to Mike, but I wanted to give you an overview of where we've been for the last 5 weeks since he was appointed. This is a new process, so Mike and I have been working together along with other city staff to kind of build this together. It's not something an AHO should walk into and be told, here are the procedures. We're creating this. So he is an equal partner in this. I feel really fortunate that we've had him during this process. He's really been invaluable. You made a wise choice in choosing him. So just a few high-level overview items. He will have his proceedings in courtroom 2, which is where Chattanooga City Court is held. The day and time each week is still being worked out, depending on where there is room, so we don't cause the judge any inconvenience. And the city court clerk's office will be handling all of the paperwork. I know that was a question. We already have a mechanism there for all of this, so the court clerk's office makes all the sense in the world to just handle this, this paperwork and records as well. We will be starting a new enforcement process soon. We are not yet ready to start that. And Mike's going to go into kind of what leads into that and the things that he has been working on as well. Since the moratorium was lifted, if I ask all of you how many applications are we going to have on the first day, you probably would have guessed 100 or more like me. We had 0 for the first week, which to me indicates probably a little bit of market saturation. Other cities around the country are seeing that, where they've been maybe over-permitted in places and overdeveloped. We have, in the week after that, we had 30 absentee applications and 8 homestays. So only 38 in the 2 weeks plus since the moratorium has been lifted, and none in the first week. That's a pretty small percentage compared to what we were expecting, since we didn't allow them for nearly a year. With that, I'm going to let Mike tell you where we have gone and where we're going, and then we'll both be available for questions after he speaks.
I have one, and that is, what about the enforcement of the unlicensed ones?
That's what we're going to get into. I need Mike to go first, and then we're going to.
Okay.
That will become clear.
Okay, thank you so much.
We have still, the number's still around 200.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Council. Nice to be with you again. I'm open for questions as we start, if there's anything on anyone's mind before I start. Otherwise, well, is there? And then I can proceed if.
Our question is mainly, when are you going to get going?
I'm going to answer that. So, okay, with that, shall
Darren?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, can we switch gears real quick and talk about, we had added litter into your duties, if you remember. Can you?
And what?
Do you have any?
Yeah.
Can you give us an update or a little foresight on maybe what you anticipate to see on that level?
I can and I will, and I've spoken with some of you, and I think every elected official here has something that they feel needs to be addressed, whether litter or other nuisance issues, along with real estate issues. So the plan is to look at those ordinances and to try to work with the city attorney's office over the next month or so to determine what the priorities are, and then to refresh those ordinances to the extent that they might need it, housekeeping really, and then to enable land development and the inspectors to have jurisdiction to send those kinds of violations. You've got a pipeline that either goes to city court or to this new Office of Administrative Hearing Officer. So we would enable the citations and the city ordinance to send those to the AHO side if that's your pleasure.
Now, Mike, I want to make clear, because I know the press is in the room, we're not talking about overgrown grass and items of that nature is not my point. My point is the illegal dumping, the trash and litter that we see. For example, one morning, thankfully, the city responded. Ryan, if you're in the room, thanks very much. Medical waste was dumped on the side of the road. It was very dangerous, containing needles and just, I'll stop there. And luckily and thankfully, the city, whoever had to do that, I appreciate them very much. And the same thing has happened at intersections in the city where I've worked with constituents. Those are the kinds of things that I think is what we're referring to, not someone's overgrown grass. So I want to make sure we're real clear on, I guess, the parameters that we're defining.
I think that is clear, and I think it goes back to what Councilman Smith said early on in this, back in June, which is if we have too many cases, we have another issue we need to look at. If we have a manageable number of cases, then we will manage that number of cases. But what you're speaking to goes to one of the things on my list, which is the training of the inspectors, because we're building this process from the ground up, and the inspectors are going to have to be trained on what it is that they're supposed to be looking for and routing to the Office of an Administrative Hearing Officer versus city court versus no activity. And if we're successful with and the metrics will tell when we measure how this goes once it starts, then the remedial part of the Office of Administrative Hearing Officer that the state calculates by having this law in place, hopefully will reduce some of those offenses. But time will tell.
And hopefully we'll publicize it to help curtail the behavior. I would hope. I mean.
The hearings are open to the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we hope everyone will know is it's not just a slap on the hand and $50 a cost of doing business, but that we mean business about our city being clean and rules being followed.
And that, again, goes all the way to the sort of the lowest common denominator of this process is, as I said in June, the inspection assets that the city enables are going to make a huge difference in how we see this play out.
Okay. Thank you.
But I will, hopefully, by Labor Day, we will have a process that enables the hearing of citations that are issued. Do you want to, just a quick recap on how Chris and I have spent the last 6 weeks?
Go through your list and then see if they have questions.
Okay. So the approval of the Office of AHO was on June 7th. We're about 6 weeks in. Since then, pretty much on a weekly basis, given some holiday interruptions, I've met with Chris and Ellis to talk about the sort of the overall structure of the Office of AHO. Then met with Chris and City Attorney Noblet to talk about the legal requirements and what we're going to need in terms of making this work from inspection, encounter, all the way through to an anticipated appeal to Chancery Court. And what I've called this is a bungee cord, and that's really the easiest way to talk about it, because it can extend all the way to an appeal, but with $500 a day or $500 per violation, which can be levied and then imposed if someone doesn't remedy the problem. So all those things I just said sort of inform on where this goes. And if someone remedies, then it's a short fuse and it gets taken care of. If they don't, we will impose the fine and the city can collect the fine. And if someone wishes to appeal, the statute allows that. So we've, again, with Phil, we talked about how that can move either in a short period of time or all the way through to an appeal. But either way, and the statute's clear on it, an appeal does not stop the fine process. So that's important to remember. I attended environmental court. Judge Patey was very hospitable and let me sit in so I could sort of just watch the way everything is moving through that office right now. Met with Anthony Byrd, who could not have been nicer and more engaging and supportive about his office really being the backbone of all the paperwork that has to move, from citation coming from inspector to me, to certified letter going out to violator, hearing being set and then either accepted or not, and everything that comes with that. So it's good to know that we've got a good city court clerk's office already in place. Then met last week with land development with Dallas and one of the bright young inspectors over there, Levi, and also attended my AHO training about a week after you appointed me. I did that through MTAS, and it was a pretty easy process. So I'm certified to date. There will be another training in October, which I'm required to attend. We have discussed, Phil, Chris, and I, and Dallas now, all the forms from the citation all the way through to a final order and findings of fact and conclusions of law. We've begun document preparation. We're in the early stages of that. Those documents, that's really the key here. Those documents have to be created. We've got to create the citation form that's going to work with the process, and we've got to train the inspectors on it. Once that happens, then I think we're capable of hearing cases. First case can't be heard until at least 30 days after the day of the citation, so that gives you an idea from Labor Day of when we could start hearing cases. And then we've looked at some other ordinances that related to litter and other quality of life issues that are important to this body. We've talked about training, we've talked about courtroom, clerk, the appeal process. I've talked to the clerk and master because what this office needs to do when there is an appeal is be able to hand a file to Chancery that meets Chancery's expectations. I don't want to disappoint anyone from start to finish. We need to be competent at what we do. We need to consider court reporters, scheduling, file administration, court cost policy. And that really covers it all. We've got the team together. Everyone has been responsive. Everyone has provided me with what I've asked for, and I've tried to do the same. And at the other end of this, probably toward the new year, I think it's important, and I think as I see this administration operate, outcomes are important. So measuring what we gain in terms of remediation, how much goes to fines, and then we talked last time about referrals for assistance, which I think is important too, because I don't want to leave that third rail off of this, because sometimes it's not going to be money. It's going to be finding someone that needs something done, the help they need. So we're going to be cognizant of that.
Flow sounds good. I remembered the other thing. It was litter and it was noise. Litter, yes. Noise, and property code enforcement sort of things, plus short-term vacation.
It's the densification of this city. It's more people living in the same space, the same acres, and all the things that come with it.
Yeah.
And as long as you enable the citation to move down that avenue of Office of Administrative Hearing Officer, then, maybe we move some things out of city court. Some things linger in city court and keep coming back because it's just easier to write the check.
Yeah.
So that dynamic at least will change.
Will be addressed. Any questions, concerns? Is this an old light, Darren?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? Guys, I think you've covered anything. Any other comments, Chris?
No, Mike and I have gone over this about 3 times since we were requested to be here, and I feel like he covered all the areas that we've been working on every day for the last 5 weeks.
Okay.
It's a process that's going to take a little bit longer, but we are moving it forward literally every day.
Guys, thank you so much for doing the good job you've done on this. You've taken it seriously and really worked hard, and I know I appreciate it, and I know the rest of the council does too.
Thank you, ma'am.
If there's nothing else, council, then we are adjourned till 6 o'clock.